over there. Phil's an old timer, man. He's old school. He's an old school kickboxer, and I teach them the grappling for his students.
Have you ever been in a situation wrestling that it turned out? It wasn't kayfabe. It was
professional wrestling.
Yeah, where maybe the guy took it personally, thought that you were, I forget the word, where you were actually going at him.
Well, I can tell you that even beyond that. I can tell you in South Carolina, when I started professional wrestling in South Carolina, there's a match on YouTube of me and T.J. Jaworski. T.J. Jaworski was arguably the greatest wrestler ever from University of North Carolina, from the Tar Heels, national champion, undefeated, not taken off his feet his senior year. Here's a little guy. And when I was at the old promotion in Spartanburg, South Carolina, APW, and Boiling Springs, South Carolina, they used to. It's a time-honored thing, and this goes back 20 years. So there could be some promotions that still do it, but it's how the Undertaker, if you ever listen to him on Rogan, how he came into the business with Buzz Sawyer. What I did for them and Chuck Sloan did for them was he would have this thing on Wednesday night. So you want to be a wrestler, and people would come out and pay, and my job and Chuck Sloan's job was to stretch the guys when they came, so take their money. And then T.J. Jaworski came down, and that's when I wrestled him, and he told the folks that came in that TJ was just a referee. He said, "This guy cleans the floor for me. He's a referee." And this will give you a lot of insight into the history of professional wrestling. And then he'd go, and Jay Eagle was an old timer, and he'd go, "Well, y'all want to get in the ring with this kid. He mops the floor for me, and he's my referee. And I tell you, if y'all can get past him, it'll be free today for you." And then TJ would just rip the guys up, and I wrestled TJ. And then there's a story Chuck Sloan told when he came on my show, Old School Shooters, about a match I had with this kid who was in the locker room crying afterwards, saying that I shot on him. Well, if you watch the way I do professional wrestling, and the reason why I bring guys in from the mat and the cage, like Steve Alponi and Stephen Bonner and Phil Baroni, is because the way I do professional wrestling is the old school way, where you have a worked finish or a planned finish, but you're going out and you're wrestling and you're leaving guys openings. Well, this particular kid, he was kind of like caught like a deer in the headlights. So I just wrestled him and pinned him, and then he's in the back in the locker room crying. So it kind of shows you how professional wrestling has changed.
Did you give him an opening and he just didn't take it?
Well, he was just staring at the lights. He got confused. He was staring at the lights. I didn't hurt him or anything. I just rolled him up and pinned him because we had nowhere to go in the match. And then he's like, "Oh, this kid shot on me." And Chuck was saying, Chuck was tough too. Chuck was saying, "Well, that just shows you how these kids have changed." But that was even 10, 11 years ago. So, yeah, I mean, that happens a lot more in the indies than in the big-time professional wrestling, because big-time professional wrestling, they have agents and they have to be much more careful about what they do, But in the indies a lot, you're going to have guys, taking liberties quite a bit because they're making like $30 in a hot dog, So it's a little different.
So one question I did want to ask you is, with the Berman Group, did you somehow get involved with RFK Jr.'s campaign this year?
Yeah, that actually wasn't through Berman, though. That was through Dion Powell. Well, I have to give a shout-out to Dion Powell. I've had run some campaigns in the past because I do speech writing, and we ran a campaign for an attorney named Sean Hayes, who was running for councilman in New York City. And Dion and I ran his campaign. So I met Dion through there, and then we got involved in another campaign. And then he was the point person for American Values Super PAC, which was the Bobby Kennedy's, Super PAC. So I was brought in as one of the marketing directors, and I was supposed to be the marketing director for blue collar voters. Okay. So I had I brought in Pat Miletich and some other fighters to talk about Bobby, Jake Shields, and both of those guys kind of turned on Bobby at the same time as Dennis Kucinich did, and really the same time I did. Jake Shields even more vocally, if you look at his Twitter, than anybody, but Dennis Kucinich as well, and Pat. I wasn't